My name is Vanessa, and I have today a very special guest. And Zakia is here with us in this talk chat. I'm a little bit excited. I need to say, we met in Playa del Carmen, and I have such a high impression of you. I visited a few workshops of yours. You are really an expert in launching online products, digital products, and I'm super happy to speak with you today about the topic: how can we align our business to seasons? But first, I would love to let you introduce yourself. Who are you today? What is your energy today?
Yeah, so first, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Vanessa, for inviting me into this conversation. And in terms of who I am today, just to kind of introduce myself to everyone listening right now. So I call myself a holistic organic launch coach and strategist. And what that means is that essentially I help entrepreneurs, service providers, coaches, healers, wellness practitioners, creative entrepreneurs bring their offers into the world using the power of organic marketing, meaning no ads, in the most easeful way possible. And I always like to say this as a little disclaimer: ease does not mean easy. So I do this from a very unique perspective by incorporating the whole of a person. So a lot of times when you hear marketers or launch strategists and coaches talk about launching, they only talk about it from the marketing perspective and the selling perspective and all of these really important business aspects. But oftentimes they don't consider the whole of a person. They don't consider the person's lifestyle. They don't consider the person's personality. They don't consider energetics. So this is the unique perspective that I bring into my launching, marketing, and selling strategies.
Yeah, this is why I loved listening to you in Playa del Carmen on your workshops, or even like in person, because I felt like you picked me up really good where I am, and you were not all about ads. I met a lot of people who were like, oh yeah, you just need to place ads, and you've been actually one of the only person I met like who were speaking about relationship building, and this is as well where I see the future for our businesses. We need to be able to create relationships, connections, and in our whole life, in business, in our private life, everywhere, it's all about connection. So this is really special to me. So yes, I'm curious to know more about like, how do you manage it to align really a business to seasons? Because here are probably a few people who are like, how should that work? You need to be present all the time in your business. I cannot just like take a mini vacation or be offline. Like how does it work?
Yeah, so that's a great question, right? Because we see the people traveling online, we see digital nomads, we see people living what we would like to believe is work-life balance, right? When in all actuality, when it comes to aligning your business with the seasons, it's really about leaning into what your natural flow and rhythm looks like, and how do you ebb and flow and shift and pivot over the course of the seasons. And it takes a heightened level of awareness and presence to be able to step into that level of understanding of yourself. So that's really what it is. It's like before we can even, determine what our business is going to look like from season to season, we got to check in with ourselves to say, how am I from season to season? When do I peak, right? When do I feel like I'm at my highest? When do I dip? When do I experience what some would call a low? And that does shift from season to season. It moves and it pivots and it flows from season to season. And I think a lot of times, one of the biggest misconceptions is that entrepreneurs and business owners think that they oftentimes think that their energy is supposed to be linear, meaning that it's just supposed to be a constant and it's never supposed to change, and they're always supposed to be on, and you're always supposed to be productive, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
No, it's not.
It It doesn't work that way. It's like, today I might feel amazing and want to work, a 12-hour day, not because I have to, but because I have the energy to put in that amount of, I have the energy and I have the capacity to put in that amount of creation. Whereas tomorrow I might say, you know what, I actually only have capacity for what's on my calendar right now. And that's where being intentional about how you set up your calendar is really important. And who you allow to get on your calendar and what you put on your own calendar is really important. So for me, because I have this level of awareness that my energy may dip and flow, or may ebb and flow, or may peak and may dip, I'm very mindful about what I schedule on my calendar on certain days of the week during certain weeks of the month, or even certain months of the year, right? I have this level of mindfulness because of my level of self-awareness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it made total sense. And how do you do it? Like, when you have a call, for example, scheduled, and then you feel like, oh, I'm having a really bad day, or like just an hour it's like really bad. How do you do it? Like, do you do the call regardlessly because of the commitment, or do you allow yourself to cancel or to postpone?
Yeah, so it really depends. Oftentimes I keep the calls. So if I feel like I wake up and I'm having a really rough day, but I have calls set on my calendar, more times than not, I will honor the call because one of my values are commitment. So commitment is really important to me, and honoring the things that I've committed to are really important to me. And for the days where I'm not feeling great, but I have commitments that are important for me to honor, I don't make myself feel bad about it. Like, well, you should have been better at figuring out your schedule and you should have, saw this coming. Like, I don't guilt and shame myself. I just say, well, we know that we have these calls on the calendar today. We're going to honor these commitments, but we're not booking anything else. And if I feel like I might need to take some time off the next day and I have calls on the calendar, I might reschedule them because I showed up to honor my commitments today, and I need to be a little bit more flexible with my commitments for tomorrow. So it's really just about not negotiating with yourself, because it's not about negotiation, but it's about tapping into the things that you value most, and also inviting in flexibility and ease into what it looks like to honor those values. So even for the days where it's like, for example, I have my own coaching business, but I am also a coach and a partner inside of other people's coaching programs and masterminds and whatnot. So I have a responsibility and a commitment to show up for certain calls that are a part of our partnership, right? So if I'm feeling like I need a little bit support, then that's my responsibility to ask for that support, right? If I'm feeling like I need a little bit more than I would need for a previous call, that's my personal responsibility to ask for what I need, right? So that's what I mean by knowing yourself and knowing what you value, and also being willing to take personal responsibility so that you can honor those values in the best way possible. That creates a win-win for you and the person on the receiving end.
Yeah, and I love that this is as well why I asked you, because canceling got so easy, and I feel like aligning to seasons can be as well a misconception, that we're like, oh no, now today I don't feel it, I just cancel. That is so nice to hear from you, that this commitment is so important, and this is what I am tapping currently in, really dedicated to the commitment more, because I discovered in the last months, I'm not really committed in a lot of things. So I really need to check in and be more committed. Even I'm working with the seasons, and keeping up the calls, not postponing all the time just because I feel maybe don't feel it totally, because that can mislead us as well in the wrong direction, and it gives the other person on the other end not a nice feeling as well. And yeah, I wanted to make another point, which I just forgot. But maybe it comes later. But I'm curious as well, like, how do you find out your season, or how did you found out your seasons?
Yeah, for sure. So before I answer that question, I wanted to say one last thing to something
Yeah,
that you literally just said that's so good.
yeah,
So you mentioned like you have been trying to be more committed. So that is a very delicate dance, right? When we say to ourselves, I just need to be more committed, it's like, well, is it really that I need to just be more committed? Or is it that I need to look at the things that I've committed to and see if they are actually aligned, right? And then if they aren't, then maybe I need to make some tweaks to this commitment that I made. So a lot of times when it comes to like being committed to our commitments, it's not a all or nothing thing where I either have to be all in or I have to be all out, right? But what it is I have to be more, or I get to be more mindful about the things that I'm committing to and the things that I'm saying yes to before I say yes to them and before I commit to them, right? And then if you find yourself in a situation where you've already said yes and you've already committed, then you get to say, okay, what is the most self-honoring thing that I can do right now so that I can honor this commitment, but also honor this new level of awareness that I now have that I didn't have before I said yes or before I committed, right? So it's this constant level of growth, right? Because we're always growing, we're always evolving. So what you're aware of today, you may have not been aware of a week ago.
yeah. I
Or
thank you so
2 weeks
much
ago.
for saying that, because this is so accurate, because I was committed but in the wrong places. So I created that space, and it was taking over a big space. So I felt like I don't have space for other commitments, and I cleared that space because it wasn't healthy for me anymore. And now I have space to create more healthy commitments, which are like actually more in alignment with my soul. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to commitments, it's like sometimes it really is important for us to just see the thing through and take it as a learning experience on what to do and what not to do next time, right? Where in other cases, it is an opportunity to say, you know what, this is no longer an aligned commitment, and I'm willing to leave this partnership or this commitment, whether it's business, whether it's personal, friendship, partner, family, whatever, right? It's commitments and relationships across the board. I'm willing to leave this because I have new awareness now that I didn't have before. And if I stay, it would be dishonoring to myself and actually cause harm to both of us, right? So it's about really having a level of discernment about what is the best action to take now that I have this level of awareness about this commitment or about this thing that I said yes to, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And this process can bring up so many emotions, because as you said in the beginning, living in ease, or like having your business flow in ease, is not always easy, because on that path we will be confronted with all the feelings, and we're not moving on a line from left to right. No, it goes like up and down, and we need to be as well willing to lean into the downs, into the pain, into the shadows, to then rise up into the light.
Absolutely. And then, so this is a perfect segue into the next question that you had asked me. How did I get to a point where I was able to align my business with the seasons, right? So I'll give you the short answer and the long answer. So the short answer, it took time. It took time. It took time. It took experience. It took me being willing to just ride out a year or 2 years to say, let me just notice what happens this year. Let me
It's exploration, right?
literally literally. And I think like so many people, a lot of times they want to get that answer right away. And I know that many people listening to this right now were probably hoping that I would say, I just figured it out in like, a month or so. No, it took time. It took me a few years to get to this point of like being in this level of awareness and being in this level of structure and being in this level of alignment where my business is now more aligned with the seasons. And it's not even where I want it to be yet, if I'm being honest. So there's levels to this, right? It's like you don't just go from level 1 to level 10 alignment overnight. Like it takes time. There's steps, there's stages, there's process, right? So it's like the first thing is like really just giving yourself the gift of time and allowing yourself to have the experience of increasing your awareness and noticing your own flow. And for us as women who bleed, right, we have periods, we have menstrual cycles. That was the first indicator for me. So I noticed that as an entrepreneur and a business owner, and also as a woman who has a period, because every woman doesn't get their period, which is also a really interesting thing because that might shift how a woman experiences herself, her body, hormones, energy fluctuations, all those sorts of things. So the first indicator for me was my cycle, my period cycle, or my menstrual cycle. And I started noticing that at certain points of the month, my energy would dip. And like to the point where it was like I couldn't focus on anything, I couldn't do anything, I didn't want to talk to anybody. It was just like I don't even know how to be with myself during this time of the month. So I started learning better ways to navigate that part of the month, just starting with my period. So I started cycle syncing. Some of you listening to this may or may not have heard of this, but there are a lot of apps that can help you do this. The Clue app is one of them. There's another really
my flow. I'm using my flow. That's a good one too.
Yep, my flow is good. Stardust is another really good because that one helps you link it with the moon cycles, which I'll talk about too in just a second. But for women, I personally believe and firmly stand behind that starting with your menstrual cycle is a really good place to start when it comes to aligning your business with the seasons and starting with your menstrual season or the moon cycles, right? So that looked like me, becoming more aware about becoming more mindful about the things that I would eat during certain times of the month, or the types of experiences and people and influences that I would expose myself to. And then on the business side of things, that looked like not scheduling, anything during those weeks. And when it came to me hiring team members, even for my business, that meant communicating with my team like, hey, around this time of the month, my capacity is going to drop. So if you need anything from me, get it from me either before this week or after this week, because this is like when I do like my mini sabbaticals, right? So but in order for us to like be able to communicate high level with other people in our orbit, whether it's a team member, a client, a partner, a family member, a friend, we first have to have that level of high communication with ourselves and with our own bodies and with our own spirits, right? So it starts with us. And the more we practice doing that with ourselves, the much better we will be at having that level of communication with other people in our spaces.
Yeah, I love that. And I as well personally started with my menstruation cycle to sync my life there and like did the research and then I observed my personal energy, what was a little bit different than you find the maps in the internet or the cycles, or even like I did online courses around that. So really getting to know your own energy. I like had a diary where it's like noting down how is my energy today. And now it works without a journal, but it is a great way to start. I totally agree and love what you say, and being able to communicate it as well without the feeling of shame, because sometimes we think like people don't understand, but the more secure I am, and like I never get laughed at or something when I say I have my period, like I couldn't come to that event, I'm sorry, I thought I got my period like 2 days later. I already got it 2 days earlier. I couldn't come tonight, and I honored that, and no one is giving me a feeling of that is not okay, because I am okay with it. And this is the most important, that you listening, or I or you are just okay with it and confident with it and honoring it and loving it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm a really big advocate for that. I mean, for those listening, like Vanessa said at the beginning of this chat, we met in Playa del Carmen, and she, came to my birthday celebration. I had a birthday celebration back in April, and I didn't know this was going to happen at my birthday, but my period started at my birthday dinner. And because I'm like really connected with my body after years of not being connected with my body, I knew what was happening when it happened, and I was like, uh-oh, I need to go to the bathroom because I think my period just started. And sure enough, it did. And the thing about periods that are, I feel, my personal opinion on this matter is so beautiful, is that our periods communicate with us. Like, there's so much happening in our bodies when we're on our menstrual cycle, especially when it first starts. There are so many hormonal changes and reactions that are happening immediately. And a lot of times when women experience that, the natural, I won't even say the natural, but their knee-jerk reaction is to resist those feelings or to hide those feelings. And for me in that moment, I got extremely emotional, not because I was sad, not because I was feeling any feelings of depression, or not because I was even feeling embarrassed, like, oh my God, I have all these people at my dinner and now my period just started. I was emotional because that's one of the things that can happen when your period starts, because of the hormonal changes that are taking place at that time. So I'm literally standing there in the bathroom, like crying, and I'm like, okay, now I have to go back out to dinner because I'm at this restaurant and it's my birthday and I invited all these people here. And I was like, all right, Zakia.
Yeah, you could not.
And I was like, I couldn't just disappear at my own birthday dinner. So I was like, all right. And I like had to give myself a little pep talk in the bathroom, like, okay, we got to go out there and just be honest and share with them what happened. And because you invited them to your birthday, that means they're your friends. So they will understand, they will get it, and this will be a beautiful moment. And that's exactly what happened. So it's really important that, like, everyone listening to this, that you allow yourself to be human, and that you allow your body to do what it's naturally here to do, and that you learn how to be with yourself during that time. So that's one of the things, one of the ways that you can start to align your business with these seasons is by first tapping into your inner seasons. Yeah. Right? So the second way, if there had to be a second way.
How you embraced it, like, it was really, I want to mention that it was really magical to observe, like how I never saw someone embracing it. So like, you've been so in tune, and you've been just like, I could feel you've been so in touch with your period, and like, it was so beautiful to observe. And I want to really say thank you for being such a beautiful example for the whole table, because I think everyone on the table learned so much from you, just embracing you on your birthday, having your period and sharing it openly, and not trying to hide or trying to be happy, even there was like no real point to be sad, but just like embracing it and letting it flow. And yeah, everyone was just like nice, and I felt like that brought everyone closer together. And this is the magic what happens when when we really embrace our own truth.
100% agree. Thank you for saying that. And, that is the magic. There's a ripple effect that can happen when we embrace our truth, we embrace our seasons, and we come into deeper alignment with that. So, the other thing that I did want to mention when it comes to aligning our businesses with the seasons are the moon cycles. So this is very related to the menstrual cycle. So when we think about the moon cycle, right, there's 2 different moon cycles essentially that are happening every single month. There's a new moon and a full moon cycle. And for those of you listening, you've been in Vanessa's orbit. She talks a lot about these things. So many of you are probably already familiar with this. It's really important that you, even if you're not into astrology, even if you don't want to study it, you have no interest in studying it, I do think it's important to have the level of awareness, at the very least, of what's happening during these 2 pivotal moments every month. So that is like the bare minimum that I do empower, encourage, not just women, but all entrepreneurs, all business owners. I do encourage them to be aware of the moon cycles, because it does impact our energy, whether people believe in it or not. It's science. It's not something that we're just making up. Like, this is actually scientific facts. The moon cycles do impact humans. They impact humans because we live on planet Earth.
Yes.
And everything is in orbit, including us. So it's really important that we tap into that and we are aware of these moon cycles, what's happening during these moon cycles, and how we might be affected or impacted by these moon cycles. So that's the second thing that really helped me to start aligning my business with the seasons, is by tracking the moon cycles and increasing my level of understanding around what was actually happening during these 2 points of the month. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing, it was like, once
because I have actually a freebie exactly on that, where I have some moon cycles in it. I'm going to quickly share it here on the screen, because it's like super easy. Then like every moon is a little different. So I have here this like PDF where, who everyone who is listening right now wants to get deeper in it. Here you can see the new moon, the full moon, what is energetically going on. And as well, I have in here like a section from my perspective why it's so important to align, and as well I have the menstruation cycle and the comparison as well, where you can see when you're in your menstruation cycle, you're aligned with the new moon basically. And getting in touch more, I have as well some recommendations about activity and nutrition. So this is like a perfect start to get aligned with that topic. So quickly wanted to share that for like everyone who's listening and thinks like, oh, I want to get into that. You can download this like under the video for free.
Oh, I love that. I love that I don't even think I knew that you had a guide created about that. So I love that, because that's really big in terms of how I coach my clients. Like, I really encourage them to honor that and like to follow that rhythm for themselves, or at least to tap into the rhythm so that they can learn more about their own natural rhythm. So I'm glad you have that resource created for the community.
Yeah, sorry, but you were coming to your next point. I'm sorry.
I was like, what was I saying next? Oh yes. So once I was able to really tap into the menstrual cycle, my menstrual cycle, and then also the moon cycles, I was then able to say, okay, and this is a really big question, because I know this was something that required a lot of work for me to navigate. I ended up even hiring a coach last year to help me navigate this. So I know a lot of people are struggling with this. And it was being honest with myself about what I desire and what I require, and then accepting that I require more than the average person. And for those of you who are listening to this and not watching the video, I'm doing average in air quotes because everyone has a different level of capacity. Everyone has a different level of desire. Everyone has a different level of even what they require in order to thrive, right? So one of the beautiful gifts of the pandemic, or what I've been calling since last year, like the great pause, is that it gave us an opportunity to pause long enough to really, really get clear about what we desire and what we require to thrive. Because so many of the things that we were used to were stripped away from us. So we had to find new ways to be sane and to like be in a state of homeostasis. So that was a really great opportunity for me to tap into this even deeper. And I remember in Q3 of last year of 2020, I ended up hiring a mindset coach because I realized that I had some deep-rooted issues and challenges associated with the things that I desired and the things that I required, because it was different from other people who I had surrounded myself with up until that point last year. And I was putting so much pressure on myself to perform and to show up a certain way because of the people that I had surrounded myself with. And I'm like, well, so-and-so is over here, you know, showing up on social media consistently and hosting events and doing this and like having a, you know, 6-figure launch and blah, 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 right? All the things. Like I could go down the line of all the things that I was telling myself and the negative talk that I had. And it was just like, but Zakia, that's not you. You're not there. You have a different level of capacity. You require more. And in the beginning, I didn't give myself permission to have the things that I required because I had a negative association with it. It was like, oh, I desire more space in my calendar. And I know that I require more time off after I have a really long coaching day or after I'm engaging with people for a really long amount of time. And I was making that mean something bad. Like, well, you just need to figure out how to manage your energy better, or you just need to figure out how to like increase your capacity. And it's like, what if I just need to give myself the space that I want, that I need, that my body is clearly telling me it requires? Like, what if I just did that? So I ended up hiring a mindset coach last year to really help me navigate these stories. And they were old stories, right? Some of them were like as old as like when I was a child. And then some of them were actually more recent, like just within the past few years. So mindset coaching, and this is where like, I say this a lot, like investing in the areas that are not your zone of genius are really going to help you grow and evolve, because sometimes we can't see our own blind spots. And oftentimes we
say, even if you're an expert in that field, because you don't want to see the blind spot, as you said, like the blind spots, even you are an expert.
Exactly. And it's like, you know, like I remember even last year, I also hired a marketing coach for myself. I teach marketing.
Yeah.
I still hired a marketing coach for me because I was like, in that season, this was actually in Q2 of last year, I was pivoting my business and my offers, and I felt like I was too close to my own stuff. And I was like, I need someone who thinks the way that I think and who serves their clients the way that I serve my clients, if not better, for me. I need that person for me. Like the same level of support that I give other people, I need it for myself, and not feel bad about that. And I invested thousands of dollars last year into coaching with people, some people who do very similar things that I do. And it was the best investments that I made in a really long time. And I'm so glad I made those investments. So a lot of times, like for anyone listening to this, if you're like knowing that you're needing support in an area, knowing that you're having a hard time getting past your own blocks, knowing that you just can't fill in your own gaps for yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. Like you are worthy of the support that you desire and that you might actually require in this season to reach this next level of growth that you are moving into. So don't feel bad about that. Like, that's something that you get to embrace on this journey too.
Yeah, I feel like that is so important, that we are open to receive honest feedback and that we are willing to listen to it, even it can be as well painful to hear certain things, because otherwise we would probably not avoid them, or like would see them already. And appreciation of really honest feedback from people who are having the best in mind to empower us to get our business thriving in a way we want to create it. That is so important, and not asking everyone around you about these topics, but being really specific, as you said, like choosing a coach where you know exactly this person is like even a little bit higher than me, but operating in a very similar way than me, so that person can serve me the best. Because I did choices I learned from them for coaches where like I wasn't served well because I wasn't choosing them in that regard. So I got disappointed, but at the end I learned so many lessons because still I was open to learn. So even you are having maybe a coach listening right now and you don't feel happy, take the best out of it. Take the best you can take to learn from that situation.
Absolutely, because all coaching partnerships are not made equal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are not all made equal. So, doing your due diligence with vetting this level of support that you're willing to invest in is really important. And, depending on what you're investing in and all of that, it may be different. Like, the way you go about it may look different. Like, in some instances, I didn't need to do a bunch of research on the person. I didn't need to do a lot of vetting. I didn't need to do all that because I just knew that was the person for me in that season, and I just trusted it, and that was enough for me. So there will be seasons where your leaps of faith don't require a lot of research, and your leaps of faith don't require a lot of percolating and thinking about it and sitting with it and praying with it, because you've already prayed. You already prayed for this level of support to show up. So when it shows up, sometimes it may just be a matter of you deciding if that's the direction that you're going to go in or not, right? Whereas other times it may look like doing a bit more research, staying in that person's orbit for a bit longer to learn more about if this is really the best level of support for you in your next step. So that's also really important when it comes to aligning to the topic that we're talking about, aligning your business with the seasons, is knowing what you need in the season that you're in and allowing yourself to have that level of support. Like, that is so important, because in all of those seasons last year where I hired all of those people and invested into all of the things that I invested in, if I wasn't aware of what I needed and I just kept trying to solve my own problems with no solution, no real solution, I wouldn't have got to where I am right now. Like, I would have eventually gotten here, but it probably would have taken me a much longer time, and we probably wouldn't even be having this interview right now, right? So it's like, it took me being very clear about what I needed in that season. Was it a coach? Was it a therapist? Was it a friend? Did I need a hug? Did I need ice cream? Like, what do you need in this season? Because it might be ice cream. Like, I mean, honestly, it might be ice cream. Or it might be, I need to go get Thai food because Thai food is like comfort food for me. And I really need to go have that green curry because that's going to help me now.
Yeah, I totally relate with that. It can be that simple. It's like actually so simple.
It's simple. It doesn't have to be as big and grandiose as like go invest in a coach or therapy. Sometimes it might be go get your comfort food and like cry. Or go listen to,
go out and hug a tree.
Yeah. Yeah, or go out and have a drink, or go out and enjoy yourself. Like, for me this past weekend, I knew that I needed to be around people who were vibrating higher than I was, and I needed to be in an artistic community where I could do art and like be a kid again. So I went to go take a pottery class, and it was the best thing that I could have done for myself. And I cried during the class, and I laughed, and I got my hands in clay, and I played in clay for 3 hours. I haven't done that in years. Literally
Oh,
haven't done that in years. And it was the most healing thing that I could have ever done, the most self-honoring thing that I could have ever done. And it literally cost me like $25. So it's like, you're like, when you think about these investments, right? Because for somebody listening, $25 could be a lot. For somebody listening, $25 could be nothing to think about, right? So when you think about any amount of money that you are spending for anything, it's never an expense. It's always an investment, right? And then you always want to look at your ROI, or your return on investment. Like, if I invest my time, money, or energy into X, what is the outcome of this going to be? And if the outcome is going to be better than the state that you're in right now, guess what? It's worth it. It's
yes.
worth it.
Yeah,
It's
and so
worth
many things are just like simply available. I was on the weekend, I was doing a hike for free, and I was just running up and down the hill like a kid and having my hands in the mud. So it can be like really, really simple if we allow ourselves the space for
it.
it. Yeah.
And that's an investment too, right? Like, a lot of times when people think free, it's like, oh, well, I'm not investing anything. You're investing your time, you're investing your energy. That is an investment. And what is the return of that? You feel better, your endorphins are high, you sweat a little bit, you got some physical activity in, you got outside in nature, like, you woke up your inner child because she got to run around. Like, that's a great return on investment. It sounds like that was worth it.
Yes, totally. Totally. Yes.
Exactly.
And I have because I know you had another meeting and I want to honor your time. So that you were mentioning before, that one thing is really important, or got more and more clear for you as well, that feeling is important, but as well, like moving the emotions in your body. I would love to take a minute to speak about your perspective on it, and what you do, for example, to move your emotions in your body, your feelings.
Yeah, so two things. So we talked about menstrual cycle and moon cycle. We also talked about being clear and having a level of self-awareness about what you need in this season and allowing yourself to have it. And then the feeling part, right? So it's like being willing to feel your feelings all the way through and not be attached to the time that it takes to see yourself on the other side of those feelings. And I used to think that this is a really new awareness for me. I used to think that feeling your feelings meant just like sitting in your bed and like crying and feeling your feelings all the way through and crying until you can't cry anymore. And sometimes that's true, right? Sometimes that is true, and that's required for that moment. But other times, feeling your feelings can also look like changing your environment to feel your feelings in a higher vibrating environment, right? In a higher energy environment, or just in an environment that is more healthy and more supportive of the feelings that you actually need to feel. So for example, yesterday I knew that, like, I call it hormone week. So I knew that I was in hormonal week. I knew that we were just pivoting into Scorpio season. I know that this new moon is coming. There's a lot going on right now. And then I'm also navigating some things that I had experienced in my life as it relates to relationships and all that sort of thing. So a lot of like heart stuff going on. And I had spent so much time being in my apartment, feeling my feelings, crying, journaling, listening to music, being still, meditating. Like, I did all the inner stuff, and I knew that it was now time for me to move those feelings and those emotions out of me, right? And a lot of times people think that they just need to sit with it. And it's like, no, sometimes you need to sit with it. And then after you sit with it, you need to move it out of you. And that might look like running, walking, dancing, doing yoga, or any type of stretch your body movement, or something like I did yesterday, like something artistic, something even more artistic, like painting or drawing or pottery or doing ceramics, right? Something that's going to allow you, that's going to act as an outlet for you and allow you to release. So playing with clay for 3 hours yesterday. Like, there were moments where we were beating the clay, and there were moments where we were like forming it into different shapes and different things. And I was just like, and I got to like let my emotions and my creativity just flow out of me. And it was such a great release that by the time I got back home to my apartment, I was like, all is well. I felt great. I felt absolutely great. And it's not because the situation had changed. It was because I changed, my emotions changed, and my associations changed. And I had space and time to like let them flow out of me and give them space to like go find a new home that wasn't inside of my body. So that's really, really important for everyone listening to this, is that it's also, you know, really important that you learn how your emotions are needing to move through you during the season that you're in.
Yes, yes. So important. And this is like a big part of my work with all the embodiment workshops I host, and yeah, learning how to let these emotions flow through us and finding, like you said, like our own outlets for doing so, even though it doesn't need to be always like an embodiment workshop or whatever. Like, we can create our own solutions for it, our own ways. And the more we are in tune with our body and our intuition, we directly know what's good for us. And that's the magical thing. The more in trust we are with the universe, the things just show up like a pottery course. Or you see then like there's a flyer of a concert where you can dance, or you meet a person who's like, oh yeah, do you want to go to dance? Like, the things show up if you're in trust, if you follow your own path and your own steps, and just knowing what you need right now. So important, knowing your desires and being really honest about it, not trying to change them for anything. And
Yeah.
do you have anything what is really important for you to share before I come to my last question for you?
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I would share is to kind of drive everything that we talked about home, is to be okay with what you need in the season that you need it, without guilt and shame. It's like really tapping into what is going to allow you to feel completely at home in your body, what is going to allow you to feel one with your heart, and what does it look like to honor that in every season.
That is beautiful. Thank you. And my last question for you is, what is a favorite practice or practice you love to make you feel magnetic in your body and your system? How do you like to tap into your magnetism?
Oh yeah, I put on my favorite music and I dance. I will dance all around this apartment. I love it. Like, I didn't even know that there's a name for this, right? It's called ecstatic dance. I had no idea until living in Playa this year that there's a name for that. I thought I just, put on my music and dance and I was just having fun. But there's actually a name for it. I don't know who gave it that name, but I guess it's called ecstatic dance, where, you just put on your favorite jam and you rock out, you jam out, you have a jam session with yourself. India Arie has this song called Private Party. And that was actually where I first learned about this. This was years ago. I can't even remember what album that was on, but this was years ago when she came out with this song, probably over 10 years ago at this point. And it's called Private Party. And ever since I heard that song, and I'll rehearse some of the lyrics. The lyric says, I'm having a private party. There's no one there but me, my angels, and myself, saying, look how far we've come. And she's just celebrating herself and dancing with herself and like dancing with her angels and dancing with God, and like just being one with that moment and celebrating in full celebration, appreciation, and gratitude. And that is now one of my favorite practices too, because it gets me right back in that high level vibration space that is so magical and so magnetic.
Oh, Thank you. I love it. I love to dance personally as well. One last thing, like how can we reach you to work with you or to get in contact with you? What are your favorite ways?
Yeah, for sure. So I love Instagram. I actually have a new relationship with Instagram now that I've been developing and redeveloping over this year. So definitely connect with me on Instagram. My name, Zakia Haughton, is the same name across all platforms, and I'm sure you can find it somewhere around this video. And then also, if you want to be deeper in community with me, you can just go to embraceease.com and that will send you directly to our Embrace Ease Facebook community.
Yes, yes. I love that community you create there. There's so much valuable content. I think you go there each and every week live. So this is a perfect opportunity to learn from you, to get an idea of like how you work, and to get in touch with you very in an intimate space.
Absolutely. Definitely an intimate community over there.
Yes. So I really thank you today for all the value you gave out. You're really, for me, a person who embraces so much what you teach, and you really living what you teach. And this is so inspiring and valuable. So I thank you for coming on to that call, for sharing your knowledge here with us. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I love this. I love this conversation. This is such great stuff, and I really hope and pray, and it's my intention that everyone else listening to this receive value too.
Yes.